Elizabeth Gilbert writes in Big Magic, "This, I believe, is the crucial question upon which all creative living hinges. Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures inside of you? I believe we are all walking repositories of buried treasure. I believe this is one of the oldest and most generous tricks the universe plays on us. The universe buries strange, deep jewels within us all, and then stands back to see if we can find them. The hunt to uncover those jewels, that is creative living." Wow. She surely did, right? Yeah. Do you know she's not a member of the American Olympic team? She's not even on the Olympic teams of any nation. That routine which you saw scored a perfect 10. However, there were parts and elements of that the judges later admit they could not even begin to score because they were at a difficulty level they didn't have a rubric for. How many of you are familiar with Katelyn Ohashi? She is now a viral sensation. In fact, that's only the second time she's ever performed that routine. Ever. As a teen, she was an Olympic hopeful, but a combination of horrific injuries and surgeries and abuse and incredible pressure of bodily perfection and performance perfection from coaches and fans left her, in her words, broken. At 18, she quit elite gymnastics and enrolled at UCLA in gender studies. Speaking to USA Today Sports on Tuesday, she credited UCLA and, more importantly, its culture for giving her a new lease on life. Quote, "Coming to UCLA, having been blessed to have the coaches I have that don't encourage us just to be athletes, but to be human beings instead, has really helped me to become who I am today," she said. "Also, having my team to support me throughout that, which is a privilege. I felt like I was dancing with them on the floor and having as much fun as possible. That's been a huge, huge part of my joy." Katelyn Ohashi has a unique gift. She took the time to find herself, healed herself in community, and she has been able to give this world a moment of joy that we badly needed last week. She became a stunning example of what are the possibilities of sharing ourselves with others, honoring, not othering, because she was indeed othered while she was trying to be an elite athlete. Sharing each other as fellow human beings in this together, challenging our best selves to come out and play. I believe if there is a universal human resource department, the ad that they place today might read, "Unique gifts, urgently needed to save the world." It's been quite a week. One filled with roller coaster experiences and events for many of us. But the truth is, all weeks are like that for some of us. Some filled with joys and griefs, confusions and enlightenments, justices and injustices, new awarenesses and continuing blindness. One of my muses passed from this world this week. Mary Oliver is one of the reasons why I write poetry. Why I write poetry, or at least attempt to write poetry, every single day. I first heard her words in church. Sacred words confirming the sacredness in the veins of the leaf I was holding, the cry of the owl, the temporal nature of a footprint that I leave, that a dog can still smell, and then disappears. Or doesn't. Words that for me knit together our newly at that time minted set of principles from the essential individuality of the first one, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, which, as you know, I want to have changed to every being, to the seventh, the interdependent web of all existence. I was looking through her works for poems for this sermon when I received news of her death. Old sacred texts call us back again and again. I looked and I thought, oh, I want to read something for them that they have not heard before. And yet, I don't. I'm going to read two of her most popular ones, probably being spoken in UU pulpits this morning all over this country. They call us back again and again, no matter when they were first spoken or penned. They're sacred. Today, as we seek the meanings and callings of our unique selves in this great universe, I want to excite you. I do not want to fill you with grief. I want to really hone in and inspire you into the truth of your special, essential nature and how we need that. I need that. The world needs that to survive. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through a desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies, over the deep trees, the mountains, and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high on the clear blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Perhaps the most creative act we humans perform is this: we create families. We create connections out of anything. This altar is a connection. This group is a connection. Those scissors, that paper, those holes in that paper are a connection. We can see the connections, and if we allow our imaginations to confirm this truth, we can see both our collective unity and our own uniqueness. We can understand how both are inseparable. I'm sure many people here, if not everybody, is familiar with the term biodiversity. I'm going to read the Green Facts Initiative description because it's kind of covers it all. They say, quote, the variability among living organisms from all sources, including, inter alia, terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part. This includes diversity within species, between species, and between ecosystems. That's diversity within species, between species, and of all ecosystems. And it's now well established that biodiversity is essential for the survival of all environments. I'll sort of nod, kind of know this. Now these days, we seem to be most commonly talking about biodiversity when we're talking about walls, or water, or the threats that our world is under. But since I believe we cannot separate out the micro from the macro, or the truth from each part that contains a part of the whole, or the idea that all is metaphor, all is reflecting back onto itself, I want you to extend for today your ideas of biodiversity to include your own spheres, your home, this church, your body. I mean, like, what would have happened if you insisted that your spleen be a heart? Right? I mean, crazy. The heart might be like, what, I'm not doing a good job? But you already have a heart. I'm the heart, right? What? What? You know? And the spleen might be like, I don't really know how to pump. I don't really have the pumping. I could try. I don't think I'll be a very good heart. And the white blood cells are going to be just ripped. They're going to be so confused they're not going to get home. I mean, you want them to go through the heart, but you don't want them to stay there. That means something else. It would be terribly confusing. And then what would happen if you decided to start putting in something that was toxic to the heart? So now look around the room for a moment. Just really look. You got to turn your heads. You got to actually look at each other. I know it's hard. Look at each other. You can do this. Do you think anyone is not needed here? Needed. Do you think anyone is not needed here? This moment that we are having could not have occurred, could not be occurring, could not continue to occur, if not for every single being in this room right now. And I believe we're all needed. No one of us, as my grandmother would say, is spare parts. You're not spare parts. Don't sit around on a shelf. We have to show up. Today is the full moon. It's of note that it's the wolf blood moon. But there will be an eclipse. And we are currently in APDM. I'm like, what's APDM? I have no idea what APDM is. Oh no, apparently it means all planets in direct motion. Because we like to use words when we have knowledge that puts us, that separates us from other people. All planets in direct, they're all lined up. All the planets are all lined up. They will be until tomorrow. Kind of cool. It's very cool. We can't see them because we don't have telescopes, but they can notice it. Perhaps you've heard the phrase, the planets aligned. Yeah. That's now. Sometimes you just go, wow, it's metaphor and it's real? Huh, how'd that happen? Mystical Raven writes, on a personal level, this full wolf moon could send up a lupine howl, oh, calling forth the leaders in us all. There could be one, where could we step up in our lives and take on greater responsibility for the good of all? How can we use our style, charisma, and influence to create a deeper sense of connection and social justice in our communities? And I love how she puts this. Here's this moon, here's this draw, this organic draw that's going on. And she's not saying, how can we stand up and fight? She's saying, how can we use our style, our creativity, our charisma, our influence? What's the most influential thing you walk around with every single day? Your smile. We are emotional contagions. We have mirror neurons and we're emotionally contagious. How can you use that for a deeper sense of connection and social justice in your community? Yeah, I'm scared. I'm not ready. Not ready. I'm going to pass the scissors on to somebody else. This phrase from poet Nicole McElhaney calls me back to being wholly reflected light again and again. It's a popular phrase. It's from the Greek cards. The whole poem is long, deep, and dark. And the moon said to me, my darling daughter, you do not have to be whole in order to shine. We are all reflected light. I suppose you could say this is a simple sermon on the fact that diversity is essential for unity. Done. I mean, you can't be a body without multiple parts. One part, one body, many parts. Each part has parts within it, and each part within that has many cells, and each cell, as we start unfolding all of those smaller bits until we start folding back on ourselves again into the ethers of thought. We must have different ideas, not the same ideas, if we are to grow. We cannot be the same. That's monoculture. And anybody can tell you about monoculture, nothing can grow in it. This is a faith that is non-creedal at its core. That means quite specifically that Unitarians value the universal uniqueness of all. Unitarian, Universalist. It's not simply two names of religious groups smushed together, but a statement of the complexity of being both singular and plural, of being one and vast. And we are called to stand up in our words and deeds as our true selves. We need to remove the fears of exposure of our soft animal bodies, and we need to love what we love, and we need to do it out loud and proud. We will not fall into the conformity of like-minded community for our worlds to survive. And I'm tired of having people come up and say, I'm looking for a like-minded community. Don't want a like-minded community, want a like-accepting community. None of us have the same minds, None of us. Those are computers, those are robots. Those are not us. We do not need to think alike, to love alike. And how you express your love is going to be different than how I express my love. Tomorrow is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a national holiday, a bank holiday, and a time to reflect on the jewels of his teaching, as well as his prophetic voice which called us to act. On November 1954, Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King preached Romans 12:2. Yes, he was that Christian Baptist preacher. Remember that. Quote, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." He could have preached it today. Quote, "This hour in history needs a dedicated circle of transformed nonconformists. Our planet teeters on the brink. Dangerous passions of pride, hatred, and selfishness are enthroned in our lives. Truth lies prostrate on the rugged hills of nameless Calvaries, and people do reverence before false gods of nationalism and materialism. The saving of our world from impending doom will come, not through the complacent adjustment of the conforming majority, but through the creative maladjustment of the non-conforming minority. That is us. What does it mean to be a dedicated circle of nonconformists? I mean, what does it mean to be a nonconformist, really? I believe it means to be your authentic self in the community of the world. The first principle cannot be separated from the seventh. The only way to honor and respect the inherent worth and dignity of every person is to honor and respect the interdependent web of which we are all a part. King goes on. I'm sure that many of you have had the experience of dealing with thermometers and thermostats. I like practical explanations. The thermometer merely records the temperature. If it is 70 or 80 degrees, it registers that, and that is all. On the other hand, the thermostat changes the temperature. If it's too cold in the house, you simply push up the thermostat a little and it makes it warmer. And so the Christian, and I would say, and so all of us humans, are called upon not to be like the thermometer conforming to the temperature of his society, but he must be like the thermostat serving to transform the temperature of his society. We are not called to be commentators, and certainly not bitter critics. We are the change agents. Each, every one of us, as Jane Goodall says, you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. What you do matters, no matter what it is that you do. What you do matters, no matter what it is that you do. King continues this sermon with the book of Daniel, where a part of Daniel is actually absent. King Nebuchadnezzar has made a gold statue of himself. There's a theme here with that color, right? Gold statue of himself, and has demanded that everybody bow down to it. And 3 brave young men refuse. In a sea of citizenry, all bowing down, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah stand. They stand up, and they refuse to bow down. Reverend Dr. King asks, who today can stand up and refuse to bow in a crowd where everyone else is bowing? This is an essential question. I place it for you again today. Not only not to bow down before ego and materialism, not only not to bow down to nationalism and separatism, but not to bow down to your unique self, not to bow your unique self into the conformity of the crowd, not to hide that light under a bushel. It's hard to bring your unique gifts into the world. It is labor of the deepest kind, conceived only out of love, by wedding ourselves to our inner joy and expressing it, releasing it, sharing it with the universe. Yesterday at the Women's March, there were so many speakers talking about how we must fight this and block this. And not a single person got up and said, we must create this, we must share this, we must sing this song, we must raise this up. We are called to do that. What you have, that joy, that is what the world needs. It needs the inoculative power of your unique means of love, whether it's an apple pie shared to a neighbor, a smile, a painting, a song, a perfect 10-minute gymnastic routine. No matter what the crowd is doing, the question you must always continuously ask yourself is, how does this action serve my indwelling holy? How does that action serve the holy world? Does it help heal? Does it hurt? Does it bring joy and solace? Is it good? Is it true? Is it beautiful? Each and every one of our answers will be different. We are special snowflakes. We are the coming storm, and we are the cool, fresh water that quenches the thirsts of spring and summer. Each of us is tasked to bring our different gifts to this troubled time, this troubled place. Life is not a destination, it's a journey. And so I'm going to close with another Mary Oliver poem, The Journey. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. Through the whole house, I'm going to start this again. This deserves your attention and my care. I read this once on a train. It's one of those poems that changes your life. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. The wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late. Enough. A wild night, the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, you left the voices behind. The stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds. And there, as a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to say the only life you could say. We must stop hiding our lights under the bushels of our fears. Our world needs saving. So bedeck yourselves with your hidden treasures and stand up, spring up, do a backflip. However you are able to shine, or sparkle, or shimmer, or twinkle, or softly glow. Your salvation and mine are inseparable. It is only in our diversity that we survive. What are you doing with my one and precious life? What am I doing with yours? I love you. Namaste. Blessed.